Hello again. Welcome to Straight Street. My name is Chris Cooley. I am a Protestant, non-denominational lover of Jesus Christ. I am not a preacher. I'm not a prophet. I am a prayer and I am a teacher. This channel is for those of us who are younger in the faith, not necessarily younger people, but younger in this walk with Jesus Christ. Earlier, I was talking about being in the army of God and how the enemy now you are a target. You are no longer in that family, now you're in this family. And you did make that decision. It's the biggest one that you will ever make, and there will be consequences and repercussions. Consequences, not necessarily a bad word, but something that we must address is because we are young in the faith, and not only for that reason. I mean, we are never immune to what is called backsliding. But I'd like to talk to you today about turning away or turning aside from this faith. The Bible talks about how our hearts are like fertile ground. Well, they're like ground. Whether they are fertile or not is kind of the condition of the heart. And the word, Jesus' word, is seed that comes into us. It is dropped upon our hearts. And depending on the condition of that ground will determine if or not that seed will take hold and flourish. As younger Christians, there is the great, I won't say tendency, that's the wrong word. The possibility is higher. The longer you're in the faith, the less likely the chance of you turning aside. The chances of you backsliding or not backsliding are somewhere between 0 and not at all. It's going to happen. But turning aside. So I'd like to give you an analogy as to what that looks like to me. Okay. So there was this television series about this motorcycle club, right? And real infamous criminals, serious. They had their own code, but I mean, if it wasn't really honor, the longer you watch it, you kind of figure out that, yeah, they don't even love each other. But there's an episode where this former member, and it's one of those clubs where if you can get in, you're in for life. But somehow, this individual was allowed to leave. He was not put away. He asked to leave. He was allowed to leave. Okay. So one of the members is having, I believe it was a birthday party for their child or a marriage, a wedding, something like that. And this guy comes back, just for the celebration. But still, though, the agreement was that he would not ever come back. But, for the sake of the individual whose celebration it was, they let that slide, right? So the kids are all out, they're playing, it's summertime and everything, right? And this guy, for whatever reason, decides to take his shirt off, right? And on his back, he's got the club patch. I mean, from his neck to his belt line, right? And one of the guys is like, "Hey, you see this? Do you see this? That's it. That is it. So the one who actually invited him, the one who said, hey, give him a pass this one time, right? He is the one who goes up to the guy and tells him, hey, yeah, look, we've missed you being around, and you got an ugly face, but we love it. Listen, come inside, let's have a drink. He's like, you sure? Yeah, we already talked it over. It's cool. So he comes in, right? He comes in, they're standing around and everything, right? They're drinking, right? Chopping it up, having a good time, right? He's comfortable. And then one of the guys goes, so I thought the agreement was that by allowing you to leave, number one, you never come back. And number two, you get that patch covered. And he's like, well, I'm just here for the party, man. And I never take my shirt off. He's like, you shouldn't have took it off today. So they grab him, they beat him down, right? And it goes to commercial, it comes back. This guy is strung up by his hands and hanging from a hoist, right? With the shirt off. And the leader, he says to him, he says, we gave you the opportunity. He said, you didn't want to be with us anymore, and we let you leave. And the only thing that you had to do was stay away and get that patch removed because you are no longer one of us. He said, so since you couldn't do it, I'm going to do it. And he gives him a choice. He says, I can either cut it off, and he's got this, it looks like a fishing knife. We're gonna burn it off. And he's got this butane torch with the big old canister on it and everything, right? And the guy's like, points to the fire. He's like, all right. So they turn him around and commence to just blacking out his tattoo. I mean, they're blacking it out with a blowtorch. His whole back, shoulder to shoulder, neck to his belt line. Did he live? Yeah, of course he did. Did he have to go to the hospital? Will he likely have severe nerve damage? Will he be able to touch his toes ever again in his life? Probably not. Consequence and repercussion. And that is my analogy of turning aside from what you have chosen for yourself now. You are no longer with them. And I don't mean the people, so to speak. Yes, those individuals also, which, I mean, you're going to, the longer you stay here, you're going to realize that God is no respecter of persons. He does not compromise, and what he said is what he said, period. But it's the spirits. It is the spirits of the environments that you used to be welcome in. They don't love you anyway. They didn't love you. You are their food. You are their playthings. You are the instruments of destruction in their hands. And they have had run of you for your entire life. And it is so natural to you now that this seems foreign, being a Christian and walking this way. And you may miss what was that way, even though there was something that happened in your life, something occurred to you that way was wrong and you wanted to be right. And here you are with us. But if you should become discouraged, perhaps because of who you are or have been, the people who are your new family, these Christians around you, give you a sense of, they put you off. They are less welcoming than you thought that they should be. And that can happen. That can absolutely happen. I am sorry about that. It happens. But these people, although they are with God, they are not God. We are still human. Okay? You know, we get hoity-toity and churchy and more righteous than thou. But you have to know that these people are still just people. We're still covered in flesh, and we will be wrong every day, okay? So just keep that in mind. Nobody's better than anybody else, even if they try to make you feel that way. However, going back over there is more than a mistake. Because God, even though he has welcomed you in with open arms, he is an absolute gentleman. He ain't gonna handcuff you. He ain't gonna strong arm you. He is going to allow you to decide where you choose to stand. But he will always stand with himself. And you are welcome to be here. But if you should choose to step aside, to stand aside, to turn aside, that will be your choice. But there are consequences and repercussions to that. Because now you are God's property. Whether you decide otherwise or not, and that other side where you came from, they know it. They know it. You smell like something they cannot stand. And they will abuse you. Whatever it was that brought you here, brought you into the Christian walk, if you go back, it's going to be worse. It might go well for you for a time. They're such tricksters. They are so cunning. They have been here lots longer than any of us have. They know human nature and they play with us. They will toy with you. They will draw you in so far that the destruction is heavily damaging. You know, I mean, it's one thing to go back and have a door slammed in your face like you don't live here anymore. But it's quite another thing to go back, be welcomed in, oh, all is forgiven, and then put in a place, put in a position that is very compromising, and then left. And of course, that's going to come by the hand of a person. And it could even be somebody that you know. But it doesn't have to be somebody that you know. You know, and that person was not seeking to destroy you. But the spirit behind that person who has control of their decisions is certainly seeking to destroy you. You know, they say you can turn your back on a person, but don't ever turn your back on a substance, on a drug, on a drink. Well, the same is true with an unclean spirit. You cannot go back. You must not go back. I have gone back, and I hope that you could learn on paper. You could learn from someone else's experience rather than the practical application of pain and regret. Now, I will say that it was good for me to have been afflicted. My life is not what I know that it could have been had I made different decisions throughout my life up to this point. But it took what it took for me and my God to have a relationship. He had to show me by allowing me to be crushed, torn apart, outcast from these folks and those folks, in order that I would see, what's good. And absolutely, don't get it twisted. God will receive you back. You need only ask. You need only take one step in his direction and he will rush 10 billion miles to meet you. But you must step in his direction. You must ask him for his help. And after having asked for 100 times, eventually you'll mean it, because eventually you will be tired of those consequences, because every time you go back, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. They hate you. They already did hate you. Now they despise you. Now they want to make sport of you just so they can mock God. Their arms are too short to box with God. So they will put their hands on you because you are God's property. You are that thing that is special to him. He prefers you over them, whereas they used to, at one time, have his adoration, and no more and never again. So that is what you have to face. It will come after you until you are with Jesus face to face. It has always been your enemy, but it has always seemed before like your friend. You have reveled in the abilities, the knowledge, the benefit of being a sinner. You've enjoyed it. And now it's something that you ought not do, because it will not serve you anymore. It will look like it's serving you only to destroy someone else. If it is not destroying someone else, then it's going to be destroying you. Try your best. Give this an effort. It's foreign to you. I know it's boring. The devil makes it that way. He nudges you to sleep when you're trying to read. He makes you feel foolish when you're talking to God. He brings up people who you know you needn't be around, but you feel like, well, who is you? Oh, you too good for us now. And it's not that you're too good for them. You tell them, hey, I'm with Jesus now, and I have to stick around the house. When you get married, you can't go out with your friends. You ought not. Your single friends, you ought not. You really ought not. Some of us, now, you still have family, you still have friends. It's going to be up to you to Because no matter what somebody else says to you, you are accountable for your actions. When you stand in front of Jesus one day, you will not have the luxury of saying, oh, but they said, they told me, I did it because, well, they did this first. Not at all. Because the person who stood before him before you wanted to point at you and say, well, they told me, they said, they made me, they did this first. And Jesus is like, no, no, we'll get to them. Right now, let's talk about you. You will fail. You will fail. You will bump your head simply because you don't know what not to do. And that is a great point of getting into this word, getting comfortable with it, getting familiar with it, so that you can know who our God is, what he prefers, what he will not accept or tolerate, and how much he absolutely does love you. If you mess up 1,000,000 times, he will forgive you 1,000,000 times. You need only ask for that forgiveness. And eventually, you're going to become comfortable asking for it. You know, you'll be more comfortable asking for forgiveness than you are for doing the things that might cause you to have to ask for forgiveness. And that's a great place to be. It really is. But you've got to get there. This is new to you. So do be patient. Don't think that I messed up and now I can't be with God. Don't let the devil or any of his minions tell you that or convince you of that. That is not the case. Your God, God Almighty, the true and living God, Jesus Christ is his name, will always receive you back because he knows what you're made of. He knows that you ain't him. You are a human. You've been here for that long. You've been sinning for that long. He knows. He gets it. You can trust him and depend on him. Okay. That's enough for now. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you again. All right.